So, let's talk about your roles as officers and Toastmasters. And if you're not an officer here, this really applies, what I have to say, really applies to anybody who's in a position to influence. If you're a parent, if you're a spouse, if you're a boss, if you're a co-worker, it all applies. But when I think about your leadership responsibilities, I think about your responsibility to the member. That should be your primary focus. That's what Frank was talking about earlier today in his session. And as a speaker, as Matt said, I speak about fearless leadership. And when I talk about fearless leadership, I'm talking about the fact that many leaders are cowards. They're cowardly leaders. Here's what I mean. Think about the former CEOs of Enron, Adelphi, WorldCom. Remember what they did to financially break those companies? I mean, they left their employees and thousands of shareholders in ruins. These were leaders. People looked up to them as models, but they were cowardly leaders. You see, leaders need to be fearless. I don't mean John Wayne fearless. I think from this last election, it's shown that we're pretty much done with having cowboys in charge, right? So what is fearless leadership? What does it mean? Well, let me tell you what it's not. Fearless leadership is not following the Bernie Madoff Ponzi scam of investment strategies, that's for sure. And it's certainly not giving advice from the Britney Spears Guide to Parenting. Fearless leadership is, it's doing what's right for the organization and its people, as opposed to doing for the leader at the expense of the organization and its people. Fearless leadership is to act on those things that we know are right. But if we just listen to our instincts, we'll know what to do. And here's the cool thing. I really don't think you have to go to the Center for Creative Leadership or the Wharton School of Business or even track down the latest leadership guru to get this stuff. No. It's inside us. The key is to just get quiet and listen. It'll just feel right. It's not complicated. I believe that we all know what's the right thing to do. Now, it may mean that these actions scare us, but ultimately these are the actions of great leaders, fearless leaders. Let me give you one of my favorite examples of fearless leadership. It was the winter of 1990, and this 3-year-old little girl, Nora Gross, and her father, Ted Gross, they were walking down the street when they passed this homeless man. And as they walked by, Nora looked at her father and she said, "Daddy, can we take him home?" Well, that's a question I think many a child thought to ask and probably have. And the answer came a few weeks later when her father handed her this large bowl of change. You see, her father, remembering the question, had asked the neighbor if she'd be willing to donate her pennies to the homeless. The woman was happy to get rid of her change and glad that it was going for a good use. And that was the genesis for Penny Harvest. Now, Penny Harvest is a charitable organization. It's raised over $6 million in pennies, which has gone to result in more than 9,000 grants and in excess of 20 million hours of service projects. I don't know, that may not sound like much, but in 1994, Nora got to appear on the Oprah Winfrey Show. And Oprah went, if that little girl can do that, I wonder what I could do. And that question led to the launch of Oprah's Angel Network in 1997. And since then, viewer donations have, get this, generated in excess of $80 million. Nice story, huh? You see how Nora was a great example of fearless leadership? I mean, she just didn't walk by another homeless person that day. She's not the focus of this example. just shied away from the question, Daddy, can we take him home? But he didn't. He did what he thought was right for his daughter and for the homeless. And that's fearless leadership. So, next time one of your members asks, can we adopt this new cause? How will you respond? I think.